Hi, I'm Warren, and welcome back to this introduction to SQL. In this video, I'm going to take you through what we're going to create. So in the next video, I'm going to walk you through a script on how to create this database and how to create the tables and insert all the data. But I first just want to walk you through what we're going to do. We're going to create a database called SalesDB that is going to have 4 different tables. We're going to have a customer master data table where all of our customer information will be stored. We're going to have an employee table where our employee info will be stored. We're going to have a product table where all the products that we sell will be stored. And then we're going to have a sales transaction table that will be a fact table. That'll be our actual sales transactions that have taken place. So if we take a look at each one, I'm going to open up here. If you want to see the columns inside a table, you can hit this little plus sign and you can see here columns. So if we open that up, you can see we have a customer ID. That PK means primary key. That means it must be unique. So we can't have 2 different customer number 1 because then we wouldn't know which customer bought what item. So this has to be unique and it cannot be null. So it can't be empty. And it's an integer format. First name is varchar 50. That can be null. Last name can be null, also varchar 50. We have email and we have phone number. So those are the columns in our customer table. If we look at our employee table, we have an employee ID that must be unique. It's a primary key. We have first name, last name, and job title. In our product table, we have product ID. We have to keep that unique too. We have our product name. We have our unit price. So what does that unit cost? And the units in stock. So how many do we have in stock? And then in our transaction table, we record the transaction ID. Here we have employee ID and it says FK there. This is primary key. This means foreign key. We have another one here, customer ID, foreign key, and product ID, foreign key. What that means is that this here is a key in another table. So if we look at the employee table, we can see here we have a primary key of employee ID. In our transaction table, we have an employee ID foreign key. So here's the primary key, here's the foreign key. When we created this table, we told SQL that this ID here is the foreign key of this primary key and they will be related. So in other words, if you have 3 employees, employee 1, employee 2, and employee 3, when you create a new sales record here, if you had to put through a transaction against an employee ID 4, which doesn't exist in this table, it would give you an error. So you're defining that there's a relationship between these 2, and there has to be a value in here for it to show up in your transaction table. And that is the same logic for customer ID and product ID. So that's just what those little keys are. You can see the key points one way and then these point a different way because that's the primary key and that's the foreign key. So when we want to join this table to get employee data from this table, we're going to use the employee ID here and link it to the employee ID in the employee table. We'll do the same for customer, same for product. So in this table, we store the employee that did the transaction, the unique transaction ID, the customer that bought the product, and the product that was sold. And then we have quantity and unit price. So they might have bought 2 at whatever the value is. In our queries later, we'll calculate what the total transaction amount was by multiplying the quantity by the unit price. But that's basically that table. So if we go and have a look at them, you can right click and you can go select top 1000. It shows you the SQL query to be able to extract the data, and here it gives you an example of the data. So we can see transaction ID, employee ID, customer ID, transaction date, the product, the quantity, and the price. If we go back up here, we can have a look at our customer table. We have the customer ID, first name, last name, email, etc. We can go to our employee table. Each time we do this, it opens another window at the top. You can just click between the windows and you'll see what table you're looking at because it'll say select from. There's the table, sales transaction, customer, employee. Yeah, you can see the employees. And the last one we haven't looked at yet is the product table. So there you can see a list of our products. The reason we want to store the IDs in these tables is if we put the full text for every record here, as we sold more and more and more products, did more transactions, the size of this table would get huge. So instead of storing a 20-character product, we can store an integer value here. And when we want to show the product ID name, we can connect this product ID to our product ID here, and we can retrieve whatever information we need from this table. So when we talk about a relational database, it means we can relate different tables to each other. So from this table, I have a product ID, and if it's a 2 here, I can relate that 2 back to this 2, and I can return that, that, or that. Same in the customer, or employee. If I've got employee 5, I can go and link it back to this data here, and I can go and return all my employee information for this record. And again, the exact same with customer. So there's no need to store the customer email in your transaction table because you might not use it. But one day down the road when you want to do marketing and you need the information for customers that bought a particular product, you can go and relate 10 back to your customer table and you can get his email address there. So that's what a relational database is. And this is basically an overview of what we're going to create. All our queries are going to be written on these 4 tables, and we'll take you through what we can do, how we can filter and aggregate and calculate columns off this data. So I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.